everyone. Let's go out here to my shop and let's make this cannon. It's going to be a I don't know if I want to do a 40 or 50 caliber cannon made out of brass. And I'm going to show you how I've fabricated it, and I want to show you where I am at the end of this video. So you guys hang in there and watch the end of this, because I've put it all together except for one part that I'll put on the next video. And y'all please subscribe and hit the like button. Watch this to the end so you can see how I put this cannon together. So we'll catch you in a bit. Okay, I finished those other two projects I was on. I'm going to go back to this cannon and get it ready to pour my brass cannon. And here's my plug that I'm going to make a sand cast out of to pour my cannon. Boy, and I got some overspray on my drawing here, and I didn't realize that I had done that until it was too late. Anyway, this is my schematic for the cannon, and the cannon is going to set on this steel chassis frame like this. And I've already poured the wheels for it. Already cast these, and they're going to go, let's see, they're going to go something like that, and then the cannon will set on top of this chassis. And then I'm going to grind all this off smooth. I'm going to blue it, and then I'm going to put some decoration in it. And then when I get ready to do the casting for this, I'll show you how I'm going to do that. I've never done anything like this before, so I'll be praying I don't burn myself up here. Anyway, that's the way it's going to be. You got these two sides going to set like this, and then the cannon is going to set in here between it, something like this. And then I'm going to heat these up and bend these legs out like this. And then all of my hardware, the axles and everything for these wheels are going to be brass, and then all these connectors are going to be brass, and then I'll make an elevator that I can screw up and down to get elevation on with the cannon. Anyway, that's where I am. I'm going to start polishing on these and getting them ready to put together. I can put the chassis together and then pour the cannon last, and we'll see how this works. And okay, here's one side of the chassis, the frame for the cannon, and here's the other side. I've kind of cleaned up and got all the rust and all the pits and everything out of it. And this one I've started to grind off, and I'm going to polish it up where it's exactly smooth. And it takes a long time. It took me 2 hours to get it to this point from this point. So anyway, it's a time-consuming progress, and hey, you guys watch, because when I get through with this, we're going to light a cannon and fire it off. It's going to be a 50 caliber cannon, and it's coming along slowly, because to get this metal and get all the imperfections out of the surface of it takes some doing. And especially when it was rusted pretty bad and pitted, I had to clean all that out. It took a while. Anyway, all right, y'all look. I've got my cell phone in my hand. This is going to be the brass wheel. I'm going to put you on a tripod. Let me put you on, and that way I can kind of show you. I can kind of show you what this thing is going to look like. I just got it chucked up in my vise right now. But the cannon and I've already cast the wheel. But picture this cannon on a dark chassis. I'm gonna blue it with heat, permanent. It won't be a paint. It'll be the color of the metal. But picture how this is going to look. It's going to be beautiful because this polished brass. I hadn't polished the wheels yet, but I will. And then all the axles and everything that go through, those are going to be brass. And then all the hardware, everything is going to be brass. And then I'm going to do some, right here, I'm going to do some decoration on these feet. But I'm going to heat it and bend them out where the chassis will kind of come flare out where this sets on the ground back here. So it'll come in like this and then out. All right, are y'all getting the picture? This is going to be really beautiful, and it's going to be functional. I'm gonna make it where you can fire a 50 caliber ball out of this thing. See this? You have to clean all of those marks out of that metal. And I got most of them out on this side. This one I've cleaned up, and it took, man, I don't know, it took 2 or 3 hours to get all that smoothed out. Metal ain't like working with wood. Kind of the same process, but oh, so much longer. I've been grinding and polishing, and it takes a lot to get these pieces nice and smooth and pretty and shiny, and I'm at the very basics of getting it smooth, which it's going to take a long time to polish it out where I can get a really nice black. I'm going to blacken it. I'm not going to blue it. I'm going to blacken it and make this black so that brass that comes on there from my cannon, and I've got my cannon turned around backwards. Anyway, my cannon's going to go on here something like this. I started polishing out this steel on this chassis. It's a long process. It's going to take a long time to polish this steel out to where it is like a mirror finish on it. And it'll probably take me 2 or 3 days to polish this thing out to where, and I've just started right up here on this little end, and I still have a long way to go before all the scratches and imperfections are out. And I got to do that through this whole thing. And if you've never tried to polish steel, give it a try, and then you'll appreciate what I'm talking about. It'll take me 2 or 3 days or more to get these things polished out like I want them. And I've been trying to figure out a quick way to mirror. I mean, it's kind of there. That takes a lot of work. Man, you got to get all of this is scratches, and all that's got to come out through polishing, fine sanding and polishing. So it'll take me a week or more to polish out these 2 pieces. I've been polishing out this chassis for it, and it takes a lot of doings. And if you will look, I've been working on this, and I've probably got 2 or 3 hours just in the polishing so far. And then you come up with this, and those are hard to get out. Anyway, I want to do another one here in a minute and show you. I may try to do some inlays on this chassis. Right in through here, and then these are just, we'll see what these little holes are going to be. Here I got my polishing wheels today. It goes on my lathe, and it cut my polishing time in a whole bunch. And here's my schematic. Here's going to be some of the decorations, and I've already got some of them kind of laid out how I'm going to put them in, put the wheel on. But look at this. Man, this over here hadn't been polished. This had, and a little more. You know, I forgot to tell you, here's what I was working on today more than anything was these trunnion, uh, those, these trunnion brackets. And they'll go on there something like that right there. And then this is what the cannon is going to be. These 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 trunnions on the cannon are going to fit right down in this hole, and then these are going to go up here on the chassis, something like that. So I've been making these little brass buttons, and they're just sitting on here right now. Let me take one of them off, and it's just a little brass button, and I've just got them laying on this chassis right now. But I was going to show you how I turn these, and it's just out of raw stock like all these brass. But what I've done is I'm turning them on a wood lathe. This is not a metal lathe, this is a wood lathe. And listen to me, do not try this at home unless you absolutely know what you're doing, or you can get hurt severely. So do it at your own risk, but you better know what you're doing. Okay, I've got this piece of brass chucked up in here, and I've got to make one more of this size to go on the other side, the other side of the chassis. So each one, I have to double up on each one of these. So right now, I want to make one of this size right here. And let me get you up here. Well, let me get you up here on this gooseneck or whatever you call them. A boom, I think they call them. Anyway, let me get you up here on this. And let's go down close. Let me back up just a little. And so you can, I'm gonna get you down real close. I'm not but about 6 inches from that, from here to the camera. It's just right there. Anyway, well, I may have to move you because I can't I can't see my work. So let me turn you over this way a little bit and turn you back over this way a little bit. How's that? There we go. That's better anyway. Okay, so this is a wood lathe, and what I do is, this is a regular parting tool that you would use to part your wood off with. Well, with a little experimentation, I've learned to use it because this is a whole lot harder than this brass. And I'm setting my RPMs at 2,500 RPMs. And I'm going to use just the very edge of my parting tool. And what's so interesting in this, and I've turned quite a bit of it with this so far, is wood. Wood will dull this thing a lot quicker than this brass will, because that wood is real abrasive and this brass isn't. It'll get hot, but it's not abrasive like wood or paper, or actually paper. I use it to polish stuff with a paper towel or a linen rag. And boy, you can polish something out. You can polish it up using your finger. I've done it. Anyway, let's crank this up 2,500 RPM, and I'll show you. What not to do at home unless you absolutely know what you are doing, because this machine is not designed to turn metal, it is designed to turn wood. So I'm going to take this just this edge of my parting tool, and I'm going to start, barely touch it, And you would use it just like you would on a metal lathe, and I wish I had a metal lathe, but I can't afford one. And it will cut that off very quickly. It's almost like turning wood, except you have to use just a little bit different process. So I've got to take a little bit off of the top. See this groove right here? See, I got to get that out. So, well, let's just go ahead on like I was going. We were taking it off okay. But I got to get rid of that groove. And this is going to chatter, unlike a metal lathe that has a different kind of base that's more solid and secure than this. Like I say, this ain't designed for turning metal. But if you're real careful and know what you're doing, experiment a little bit. You can accomplish anything. You just gotta do it. Just do it. I ain't never done nothing like this before in my life. But you know what? It is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Just making these little buttons. It's something I ain't never done before. And they turned out pretty darn good so far. Now then, I got to change the left hand and take this back just a little bit. Round this off just a little bit. And my eye is, I really got a keen eye. And I know what a 1/4 inch is by looking at it. And I guarantee you all of these buttons, and I hadn't measured any of them. I just started parting them off. And I guarantee you they won't any of them vary in size very much. So now I'm just going to take the point of this parting tool. I'm just going to take the point of it and mark where I want to, and then I'll put the tool against my body and just, my hand stays stationary, but my body is moving the tool. I'm not moving it with my arm. You don't want that. You want something stable. And so you use your body to bring this down. Something like that. And I've got my calipers to need to go down just a little bit more. So now I want to use this as a regular parting tool like I would on a piece of wood. And it may chatter and it may be loud, and I tapered that tongue just a little bit so that it'll drive down into my hole in the chassis. It's still just a little bit too big. I'll take it down just a little bit more to fit the drill bit size. All right, that's good right there. All right, that's it. And I guarantee you this bit is not near as dull as it would be cutting wood. And that intrigues me right there. I learned something in that. Okay, now then all I gotta do now is hack this off. And I'm leaving about, not quite a quarter of an inch, because I don't want to have to drill too far down into my chassis that I would go through to the other side. So I'm making these kind of shallow, and then I will epoxy them in. I will epoxy them in those holes. Right here, when I part this off with a hacksaw, there's something about these things, and they're so slick. I've got 2 or 3 of them down there in that sawdust that there ain't no way you can find them. Yeah, talk about finding a needle in the haystack. Just try it. I have. And even when I hang on to it like this, and I part it off, boy, they'll slip right out of my fingers. Nearly every one of those do. So I try to take it down, and it still acts a little bit, and not completely cut it off, and then kind of break it off, but like that. There we go. Got it, like pulling teeth. Oh, you know what? I'm such a dummy. I got way ahead of myself. This ain't gonna work. That's no good. We're gonna have to do it again. I'll be back in a minute and I'll show you what, well, let's just do it. It won't take that long. Man, I got way ahead of myself here. This is all got to be sanded and polished, and I got so involved in talking to you guys, I forget what I'm doing right here. Let me turn out some of these lights and see if it'll be any better right here. Maybe a little. Okay, I sanded it with 320 grit. This is 500 grit. You gotta get all those scratches out. And then take a piece of 4/0 steel wool, and you have to be careful with this, because if you're not careful, it'll wrap around that and twist around it. So you got to be really careful how you apply that steel wool. And polish off the end of it with the steel wool until it's good and shiny. And then I take a regular old car finish polishing compound on a rag, and watch how beautiful this gets. Watch how beautiful it gets. I can't believe I didn't do this step on the other one, but see how the abrasive in the polish will take it off. Alright, from what I'm seeing right here, it looks pretty good. I'm going to turn this light back on so I can see. I don't see any flaws in that button. I don't see any flaws there. Here, let me see if I can get you off the tripod here. And isn't it pretty? So brass is so pretty when it's all polished up. Alright, let's get you back up here. And I'll part this off again. Well, no, I gotta turn the tenon. I gotta turn the tenon. Man, that's right on. That is right on. And that's all there is to it. And now I'll part this off and I'll be through with my buttons, and then I'm going to start working on that chassis and start getting it all cleaned up and ready to mount the buttons and get the chassis together. And then this fall, when it cools off a little bit, I'm going to pour that cannon. And oh boy, see what I mean? Those things are slick. You can't hang on to them, but anyway, here's a little button we just made. How fun is that? I have got to make some of these, and I'm just holding my cell phone in my hand. Some of these, and they are called acorn nuts. They look like an acorn, and they are threaded on the inside. So I've got to make some of those because these are too small, and these are the largest ones that I can purchase. I've looked online, I've looked in hardware stores, and all I can get with an acorn brass nut is 1/4 inch. But I need one bigger because the axle on my cannon needs to be a little more beefy. So I'm going to do this 3/8 piece, but I cannot find any acorn nuts because, look, I'm going to drill a hole right through here that's going to hold an axle. So I've got to have I've got to have one right here that's going to go on this wheel to screw into an axle. So I've got to have 4 of these. And then the one that's going up here this axle that's going across here, actually it's just a cross member where it will be a stabilizer. And it'll have these acorn nuts right there. So I'm gonna have a small one there. Uh-oh, I knocked off a button. An acorn nut there, and I'm gonna have an acorn nut here, but it's gotta be quite a bit bigger than that one because of the size of the axle. So this is what I'm turning and making right now, is an acorn nut. I need 4 of these this side. I am about to drill out a hole to accept. Right now I'm just drilling out a pilot hole. Just drilling out a pilot hole to accept the next size drill bit. And then I don't have the proper size drill bit. I need to do a 1/2 inch thread. Here's this acorn nut I have been making, and I got it threaded. It's not perfect, it's just handmade. I got it threaded. These are the threads I'm going to put on the axle, and this acorn nut is going to go right there. It's going to attach a rod to the other side of a duplicate of this reversed. Now, how fun is that? It's not perfect. It's handmade, but it's going to work. I guarantee you it's functional. I'm going to do some threads. Let me bring you down here. I'm going to do some threads on this axle. It's going to connect the 2 sides of the chassis together. So these threads have got to go all the way through this chassis where I can screw a nut on this end and screw a nut on this end to tighten it against the chassis. And I need to take these threads just a little bit further. And what I did was I took my dies and I took my tailstock on my lathe and pushed it up against this so I could get a true 90-degree angle to start my dies. And I screw this in. I've got to go all the way to the end of this mark to get it far enough where I need it to be. And this is the way I did it, right here. All right, now we're getting there. So now I have to tighten that up a little bit, and I have to oil this a little bit and turn some more threads all the way to where that mark disappears. And brass is a lot different from steel. Brass is kind of gummy when you're doing this, and it has a tendency to stick. And my stock is turning in my chuck, so I've got to tighten this chuck up. And turn this until I get the desired depth of these threads. Now, how fun is that? How fun is that? because if you don't get these threads perpendicular with the shaft, your bolt's gonna screw on there crooked. So there is how I make an axle to mount the wheels and the chassis together, and there you have it. Perfect threads. Now then, I got to thread that acorn nut that I showed you earlier that's going to screw on here. Oh, how fun. This wheel is going to go somewhere up here like this, but I'm just going to lay it down right here right now. And then this nut I've been making on my lathe, this one is what's going to attach the wheels to the axle. Now, is that beautiful or what, guys? Huh? What do y'all think? That's going to work. See this wheel? If you don't believe that I didn't cast these myself, look at this. Look at this. Here are all the failures. And actually, this isn't all of them because I remelted some of these. But these all had imperfections. And even the ones I cast, I made my own furnace to melt that stuff. These two come out pretty good. I want everyone to see this because this pack, this is not going to be, hold on, let me get it set back up. This is not going to be the color of that chassis. The color of the chassis is going to be something like this, because this is a test piece I did with just heating it up, dipping it in oil, and it will not rust. It's protected. That's a good finish. So this whole chassis is going to be this color, and look what it's going to look like with all this brass fittings on it. It's going to be beautiful. I've been making these acorn nuts to put all this stuff together that's going to be on this chassis and the wheels and the axles and everything. So I've got to machine it out of a raw stock like this and making these hex nuts. And it takes a little time because I don't have a precision machine. This is all just done by hand. A grinder, a wood lathe. But it is so much fun. And here's my little layout for these acorn nuts. Well, I foobarred this one side of the chassis of the Cannon. I had it looking pretty good. I was getting down to a polished surface, and then I bumped the tool I was polishing it on and gouged it out here and here. It'll take me hours to take that back out. Anyway, there I am. And I was starting to position out where I want all my pins, my decoration. And I want to go ahead and drill and machine all those in so that when I get ready to blue this or blacken this steel, I won't have the risk of scuffing it up trying to machine for these parts, because these are going to drill in too, because they've got a, if you look at them, see they right there, they've got a little tenon on them where I'm going to drill in through a mortise, where I'm going to drill in as a mortise and then epoxy them in. I've been polishing on this piece of steel here that's going to be the chassis for the Cannon. And if you can see that Texas flag up there, that's on my ceiling right there of my studio. And it's just reflecting down in here. And look at this. You want to see something beautiful? You want to see something beautiful? Oh, there I am. Now that's beautiful. Got some imperfections, but I'll fix them. Okay, guys, I've come to a crossroads. I want to see what y'all think. This, I took a piece of this steel. This is off of the same piece of steel this is. Polished it up, heated it up and blackened it and put a brass on it. And on this one, it's just a raw steel polished, and I put a piece of brass on it from that one. Which one looks best? Oh, and what y'all seeing right here? Oh, is my surfboards up here on the ceiling of my studio, right there by my flags. How fun is that? Look at this. I've been polishing this piece of steel out for ever and ever, and y'all can still see the imperfections, and some of it, those have got to go. All those little minute scratches, they got to go. Anyway, it's getting closer and closer. You can't imagine how many hours I have just in this one piece, and I've got 3 more sides to go on this. Wow, love y'all. Hey, y'all keep aboard. It's gonna be beautiful when I get done. Look at this. All these pieces I made out of brass. And I'm gonna incorporate them on my Cannon bill. Anyway, I used to be a pattern maker, and I made patterns for motorcycles and stuff and all kinds of stuff out of wood, and then they would take those and make their molds out of them. Anyway, hey, this little cannon's gonna be beautiful when I get through with it, when this is solid brass, like all of this is, and this. How beautiful is this gonna be? Okay, I've got all the parts made except for 2. And the barrel, I've got to cast the barrel. And then I've got to make the kickstand, and I'll explain that kickstand here in a little while when I get this kind of put together. So right now, let me bring you up closer. Let me bring you up closer to how this thing goes together. And I'll just show you. All right, the first thing I got to do is, this is a brace. That's all it is. It's just a brace to help hold this the frame together. That's its only function. I'm not going, I got to loosely fit these pieces. And then the axle, the wheel axle, I took a 1/2 inch piece of brass, stock, and then the 3/8 axle, and I machined out the inside so that this 3/8 would go through there. And this is a spacer. It'll go down inside the chassis like this, and then the axle will fit through like so. And what will happen, let me show you how this works. I made these spacers to go on the outside that would hold the spacer on the inside and the outside. And then the wheel, when the wheel goes on like this, and then tighten up, it's not going to be real tight because I want each one of these wheels to turn independently on the axle. So we'll put these spacers in like this, get the wheel on, loosely fitted. Now then, the elevator. I made the elevator, and this elevator, if you can see, it's just a I took one of the old wheels that cast. It was a bad cast, and I cut the spokes off of it and used the hub, and I mounted and tapped it out and put and made a bolt out of brass that I could screw in and screw out to go right back here. And I'll show you how that works here in a moment. But first, let me get this on. And then this is just a spacer at the back. It's just a reinforcement to help hold this thing together. And then it will be the place for attachment for the kickstand. And I'll explain that kickstand here in a moment. Let me get all this together and I'll show you how that kickstand's going to work. Let me get these bolts. Let me get these bolts on this elevator. I mean these nuts. Get these nuts on the bolt. And then I'll tighten that down where the elevator will stay in place like so. And then so I'm just gonna finger tight, just hand tight all this stuff because I'm gonna have to take it back apart. I just want you guys to see how this all gonna go together. Now then, on the cannon part, let me kind of back up a little bit here, and so you guys can see my beautiful face. The cannon, this is what you call a plug, and I used to be a pattern maker. And I think I mentioned that in another part of another segment of the video. I used to be a pattern maker, and I made parts for I made motorcycle parts for foundries. They'd send me the schematics, and I would make their plugs out just like I'm doing right here, out of wood, and then they would cast it just similar to what I'm doing right here in mostly aluminum. Texas Aluminum Foundry. I made parts for them, and then I made plugs for fiberglass and parts for vacuum forms, where they would take PVC plastic and they would heat it up to where it was soft and pliable, and I make a vacuum form. Well, they'd lay this over the vacuum form and it would just suck that PVC down over whatever form I made, and it would come out in that shape. And then I made plugs for fiberglass, and I made plugs for carbon fiber domes for helicopter radar domes. They were helicopter radar dome covers is what they were. So I made all kinds of stuff like that. And it was very interesting, very fun. Now then, what I'll do, and let me get you over here where you can see what I'm doing right here. I'll have this this form made. I've got this form. And I'll take these pieces and I will put them in like so. And then I will take this, it's called green sand, and it'll pack down in here very tightly around this plug. And I will have a void here and a void here that'll come all the way down to the bottom of this thing. And then I'll have a vent here and a vent here. So this will be a vent up here, and then this will be where the molten metal will come in. And I'll pour it from the bottom up. And as it fills up, it'll force all the air out the top, because I want this down here to be the hottest part. I want this to be the hottest part of the pour. So as it goes up, it's going to cool as it goes up. So I want to make sure this keeps molten so there won't be any bubbles or voids in this. Especially this part right here where the compression is going to be from the gunpowder. And then when it cools just a little bit, then well, let me show you first. After I get this in here and get the sand packed around it, it's going to be in here like this. I will pull this out, and it'll leave that impression, the indentation of this plug, one here, and then I'll take the two sides and put them together like so, and then pour it. I'll clamp it all up and pour the molten brass in it. Now then, let's look at how this is going to go together. Now this cannon's going to sit on here like this, and then this ball right here, I can turn it up and down to elevate or lower the cannon barrel. And I'll have to tighten that up where it won't swivel around like, but I'm not going to do that right now. And then these caps, I made these studs to go over these trunnions like so. It'll hold this barrel in place. Boy, and as I said, if you've been watching, I made every part on this thing. Fabricated every part on it. So the next part I've got to make is that kickstand. Let me explain what that kickstand is. Let me get these nuts on there. Okay, at the back of the cannon, right here, I'm going to make a piece that will swivel. That'll swivel down and then fold back up here out of the way. And what it is, it's going to be a piece that when you fold it over, it's going to have tongs on it. It's going to have forks that will dig into the ground. Because when this thing recoils, if you ain't got something to stop it, this thing blasts across the yard, and you don't want that. You could hurt somebody. So if you've watched these old movies where when they fire off those cannons, if you've ever watched how they'll kind of jump up like that, where they'll, you see them do it. And on ships, on those old ships where they had those cannons, they had ropes tied to these things. If you'll watch them old movies, they have ropes tied to them, and when they fire that thing off, then those ropes will restrict it from flying across the hull of the boat. So there's where I am, and as soon as I can get some help to pour the barrel on this thing, because I can't do it by myself, because it's going to be pretty heavy. You won't believe it, but it's going to weigh 40, 50 pounds for that, because I've weighed it out the first time. On the first pour, I weighed all the brass, and it come out to about 45 pounds or 50. I forgot where. It was right at 50 pounds. So I'm going to have somebody to help me with those tongs to lift those crucibles out of my. Well, let me show you my burner that I made. This is where I melt the brass. In fact, let me move some of this stuff off of it. I've got stuff piled on top of it. But here's the first pour I did. And oh golly, that's a lot heavier than you can imagine. And here was my first pour. And it turned out pretty good, except I had a void here and a little void here on the trunnion. And then on this side it had some voids, and I tried to fill them in. And then I will put this on the lathe, and I'll turn all this out smooth and polish it all up. And it'll be real pretty. But that was the first go at it. And let me show you. This is the part. This is the part that went. This is the part that went where I poured the brass from up there at the top, where I poured the brass in, and it come down in to here, and then filled up from the bottom up. But one thing I forgot to do when I poured this, I forgot to take the torch and heat up that sand mold and get it really hot before I poured this, because that brass will cool just almost instantly. It don't take, you can pour this and in 3 minutes you can take it out of the sand. It'll still be hot, it'll still be red hot, but it'll be solid. So there's where I am, guys, and as soon as I get some help, because I'm not kidding you, this is that's a lot heavier than you might think. The cameras are kind of deceiving in that area. Anyway, it's going to be beautiful. What do y'all think? So y'all be sure and subscribe and hit the likes button. And on the next video, when I get somebody to help, I'll video it. And I videoed this one, but I forgot to turn the camera on. That shows you how stupid I am. I won't forget next time though. All right, you guys be sure and hit the likes and subscribe to Gary Mac Studio. So I'm gonna be doing all kinds of stuff like this. So I've got, here's a project here. Here's a project here made out of, it's gonna be made out of Western red cedar, aromatic cedar. And I've got stuff. I've got complete welding rigs. I've got wire welders. I've got stick welders. I've got plasma cutters. Just about anything you would want. And look at this. I made, this is my, I made this grinder. I've got a belt off of it right now. But I made this grinder to where, let me turn this thing all around and show you how it works. But with the belt on it, I made this grinder where, boy, I can use it to shape metal. I made every part on it except the motor and the wheels. I bought the wheels. And then I bought this piece right here. I bought the wheels and I already had the motor because it come off of it come off that lathe when I put a different motor on my lathe. Anyway, there you go, guys. So y'all subscribe and be sure and watch this next segment, because that's going to be a fun one when we we fire up that foundry and pour this brass. All right, we'll catch y'all later. Bye bye.